Hey, I've got Ian Dallas from Giant Sparrow. We are here with the unfinished Swan. How are you doing, Ian?
I'm great.
Excellent. So, I mean, this is definitely one of the more interesting indie games that Sony's got on PSN right now. You were telling me before we started that you guys are your own developer, but you guys are working out of Sony Santa Monica, like literally in the office there, in collaboration with them. What's it been like bringing this thing to life? I mean, it's a pretty offbeat project, but working with that gigantic kind of support structure there.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I think so far, 3 years into this, I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, but Sony is really enthusiastic about the game and really enthusiastic about a totally different kind of experience. So they're not afraid when we present ideas that are a little crazy, because that's exactly what they want.
We just want to make a game where you throw paint everywhere, and they're totally cool with it.
Yeah, I mean, so far, again, 3 years, I keep waiting, and someone can say, oh no, it's too crazy, we can't release this, but fingers crossed.
Yeah. So I mean, I just spent a few minutes with the game, and my initial impression is that it's very free-form. It seems like exploration is the focus. You're not necessarily trying to funnel players through really specific objectives right off the bat. Is that accurate all the way through the game, or are you going to kind of start constraining mechanics and presenting like kind of more kind of imposing obstacles later on?
Yeah, it's an interesting challenge. We do want the game to feel like it's really open and freeform, and we want players to feel like they're exploring the game world, like legitimately, where we're not telling them what to do. They're actually just going out there and finding things for themselves. It turns out that if you make a game that is completely open, that's the opposite of fun. Like, it just ends up being incredibly frustrating. So the goal for us is to make it feel a little bit more open than it is. But in terms of the mechanics, we're really trying to give people, a toy that they can use to explore the world with. So we don't dictate what they do with it. We just give them, in the beginning of the game, an unlimited number of paintballs, and then, they get to play the game however they want.
Right. So, I mean, the look of the game is very abstract, but you actually have like a pretty coherent storyline with a named character and kind of a, it's fantastical, but you've got a kind of a specific objective. Does the storytelling remain that abstract throughout, or I mean, are you going to have like characters kind of giving you exposition at some point? Like, how does that stuff go through the course of the game?
It's somewhat abstract, in that we don't try to ram it down people's throats. We try to make it something that, like the rest of the game, people are exploring for themselves. So, in the game, the primary mechanic is exploration of space, and so we wanted to find a way to tell a story through the architecture of the world. So it didn't feel like something that was bolted on. It felt like just in playing the game, you can discover a little bit more about what this world is, and you don't have to go up and pick up tape recorders and scientist notes or whatever it is that is a way to tell a story. But we wanted to weave it in a little bit more directly with mechanics. We started out the game actually with just a completely white world, and we found that after about 5 minutes, people wanted a sense of the story. Like, even if it isn't a whole lot of story, they wanted a sense of, well, what am I doing here? And so we answered the question right off the bat. You were a child, you were chasing after a swan, go. And the model that was really Alice in Wonderland, which we think does a great job of encouraging readers to have a sense of curiosity and a little bit of wonder that is amazing, because if you look at the story moment to moment, it's total nonsense. Alice is going off, and like no chapter really feels like it has to come after the other. But having the rabbit in Alice in Wonderland or the swan in our game provides just enough of a through line that people can focus on what the game is really about, which is exploration.
Right. So you mentioned right off the bat, the first area of the game going on behind us here is just sort of about throwing black paint around, seeing what's there. But later on, I saw an area where there's some water involved and some kind of plant growth mechanics. Is it ever going to get kind of more puzzle heavy? Are you going to have like multiple types of paint at the same time that you need to mix? Any kind of complexity like that on the way?
We tried really hard to not make a puzzle game, and we totally failed. There are puzzles in the game, but they're very few and far between. And what we found was that when we had just a game about exploration that was kind of a linear traversal, that it got a little bit monotonous. So players, you can almost time it out, and you can feel like you're moving consistently at like 5 miles per hour the whole time. And so having puzzle-like experiences gave us a chance to have players really thoroughly explore one space instead of trying to move to the end. They're sort of in a more constrained area and get to explore more of the details of the environment. What we tried to do with the puzzles was make something that didn't require a lot of thinking. So we didn't want players to have to stand in one spot and just kind of say, like, what do I do here? We really wanted it to feel like the rest of the game, where you're like a kid who's exploring by just trying stuff. So we tried to make a world that has all kinds of moving pieces. We really wanted to make it feel like a game for toddlers almost in those areas for the puzzles, where you're just trying things and pulling on things or hitting things or just trying to see what is out there in the world, and then eventually, you know, solving these puzzles through that way.
Very cool. So you mentioned you guys are like 3 years in now. Where are you at in development? I mean, are you closing in on the end, and do you have any sense of when we might see this thing?
Yeah, I hope so. It certainly feels like it's getting close. So sometime by the end of this year.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we'll look forward to it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.